you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
That night they raised the peace banner, threw open the castle gates, and delivered Lady Argilla gagged, chained, and naked to the camp of Orys Baratheon. It is said the Baratheon unchained her with his own hands, wrapped his cloak around her, poured her wine, and spoke to her gently, telling her of her father's courage and the manner of his death. And afterward, to honor the fallen king, he took the arms and words of the Durrandon for his own. The crowned stag became his sigil, Storm's Inn became his seat, and Lady Argilla his wife.
Welcome back to the Throne of the Dragon podcast, the show that covers each and every episode of HBO's House of the Dragon, and in the off season, we're covering everything Westeros. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Curtis. Curtis, we are here for the first of our little character profiles. I'm sure this will go so good.
Horrible.
Because when we try new stuff like this for the first time, it always goes really, really well.
Well, I'll just say this. I did my part, and I'm pretty sure it was a home run.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm like, was that the
Spotlight's on you, buddy.
quote? Or
That was the
okay.
quote, buddy. I always knock the
Um,
quotes out of the park.
I picked this quote because
Guess why?
I feel like it's very telling to our subject's character.
Mhm. I would agree.
On our subject for this one, Curtis, is old Orys Baratheon. Long before Raj the Dodge, there was Orys Baratheon. I know Raj the Dodge is your favorite Baratheon, at least that we've come across so far.
Oh, Raj the Dodge.
What
Yeah.
what makes Raj the Dodge your favorite Baratheon?
The fact that I thought his name was Roger.
Roger?
And so, we just became best friends from there on.
Rogar.
Rogar. Yeah, it looks like Roger to me, so
Oh, Raj the Dodge. Um, I thought Orys Baratheon was an interesting one to look into a little bit. Um, and we've already talked about him a little bit during our Fire and Blood series so far, during the Conquest, and it comes back a little bit into the story during Amy's reign. But he's a character there's just like not a lot out there about, you know.
whoa. He's getting
We
choked up
know,
already.
I think probably
Oh
the biggest
God,
thing,
Orys Baratheon.
I think one of the biggest pieces of information about him is that he's the rumored bastard brother of Aegon the First.
What?
And in a lot of places, and I think a lot of sources in their world would tell you, like, oh, yeah, it's just, it's barely a secret. A lot of people just accept it as a fact, and even Jaehaerys um, considered, that to be open knowledge. Um, in his general description, I only put three things in here because this I feel like is what Orys Baratheon as. He doesn't
What?
have the
Wait, wait,
Targaryen, but
wait. Let me do it like we do it on After Hours.
don't cross over
Num
me here.
Number three.
Oh my God. Um, so these three things I feel like are the things that people kind of know him by, you know. The first thing is he doesn't have the Targaryen look.
Number one.
Black hair and black eyes. And the question of who his mother is, I feel like you could never really get down to the bottom of that. If he's there on Dragonstone with them, there's not going to be any other prominent houses there.
So
You're not
that's
going to
my
run into a situation with like Brennan Rivers and Agor Rivers because the the mothers aren't from noble houses. Well, their mothers were, but I assume Orys Baratheon's was not.
right. Oh,
And
never mind. Okay.
oh, okay, what were you looking at?
I was just trying to figure out something about his birth.
Ah, um, and then we know that he was a pretty fierce warrior. Aside from those three things, knowing that he's Aegon's hand, um, there's really not a whole lot there. So I think a lot of what we'll talk about will just be kind of speculation, based on the things we know, what can we infer about other things? Um, so I broke it up a little bit into before the conquest, during, and then after the conquest and Dorne. After the main part of the conquest, but before Dorne is conquered. Before the conquest, like we were just saying, we don't know who his mother was, but it is strange to me that he doesn't have the Targaryen look at all. I know in House of the Dragon we see Jason Luke, they don't have the Targaryen look at all. But it does seem like some of these other Targaryen bastards that we're more familiar with do kind of have that look a little bit. And I guess you could say maybe Bloodraven's an exception because he's an albino, so having white hair, he if he didn't have oh God, I'm gonna say this wrong. Albinism, albinoism, I don't know. Alopecia? Is that what it is? I can't remember. Uh, yep, we'll be right back. Yep. Oh my God. Ugh. Curtis, you are muted.
Oops. Was I muted that whole time?
Yes.
Darn. Now, what were you saying it was? Alocasia?
I don't know, Curtis. Now I'm just vomiting words.
Okay.
I don't think so,
Albino.
man.
Albino monkey?
No.
Reduced amount of melanin. Or melanin. This says albinism.
Albinism. Okay, so I was right the first time.
Albinism for teens. Sounds like a book. Anyway,
Yeah, so I think that lends itself more to him looking like them. You usually think of Targaryens as having like super blonde, almost white hair and, kind of silvery white hair. So, um, but yeah, I do find it interesting that it doesn't seem like he doesn't have the Targaryen look at all. Not in the eyes, not in the hair. Um, I feel like we got to assume that most of his time is spent on Dragonstone and probably being trained alongside Aegon. Um, I think that's probably pretty common for the bastards to be trained alongside their natural brothers. And I think it just probably more than anything creates that sense of camaraderie that they were trying to create between Alicent and Rhaenyra's sons in House of the Dragon. Um, but he's also said to be Aegon's really only true friend, you know? So I got to assume that he's around during a lot of those formative years. Like he's at Aegon's side through a lot of this. Plus, Targaryens don't really view bastards the same way everyone else does.
Normal society, yeah.
And that's skewed by the fact that a lot of our time with the Targaryens is in Westeros. So in House of the Dragon, yeah, all blown up a lot because um it's not a Targaryen to Targaryen marriage. And it probably, I don't even know if it would have been as serious with Aemma Arryn because they're so closely related. But with Alicent and the High Towers being so rooted in the faith, like this is a
So it's
huge
a culture
deal.
thing, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Bastards need love too, Josh.
um, he's called a companion of Aegon's youth, and I want to ask you, like, do you think we can assume that Aegon's other, like the other companions of his youth were sons and daughters of the other Valyrian houses? Celtigars, Valyrians, Baremans, Massies.
I would assume, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, unless there's just some type of like animosity between
Right.
those
And
houses, you
these are
know.
the right. And these are the people who come to his side first before he
Right.
even moves.
So you'd have to assume, yeah.
And two of those houses, the Bar Emmons and the Massies, they're sworn to Storm's End. So they're
Right.
actually like betraying their liege lord to follow Aegon before anything has even happened.
Right.
So we got to assume there's a little bit more there than just the call to arms, you know. I can't remember what the exact quote was, but it was that he called his friends and allies, something like that. So yeah, I got to assume that a lot of these people are more, and they're all in the same general region. So I feel like a lot of these people have kind of
Right.
grown up together.
Right. Distance. Okay, so let me ask you this though. Dragonstone. Are they all on Dragonstone? All these houses?
No,
Okay.
no, they're
So that was
all
my other thing too. I was just thinking
up the
of that
side
coast
of
there.
the narrow sea. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. It's been a hot minute, so I'm trying to get back into like maps and everything too, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah. The Celtigars are at Crackclaw Point. The Valyrians are at Driftmark. Dragonstone, I think, is the Dragonstone is the closest in um, the Gullet.
the gullet.
Um, what do you think it was like growing up with the Conqueror? Well, and I would say also all three of them because they all seem to be fairly close, you know. I think Aegon and Orys or Orys is closest to Aegon, but
Yeah. I'm not on mute, right? Okay.
no. We're good. We're good.
You got me paranoid now, man. I mean, question is to me, like, do we have an actual like Like who's older? Who's older? Is Orys older or is Aegon older?
We don't know.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, unless it gives I actually didn't see what if it listed his specific birth date.
well, so on what I'm looking at, it just says born before 20 BC. Um, dadgummit, what was I gonna say? I don't remember where I was going with that. It's the kind of day I'm having, buddy. We're talking about growing up though with the convert, right?
Yes.
I mean, what kind of status is Aegon when he's growing up? Obviously, he's the son of a lord, right? The Lord of Dragonstone, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, if you're basically being, you know, treated like a son too, I wouldn't think it'd be, I don't know, man. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. What do you think, Josh?
I mean, like I said, I think Targaryens treat their bastards differently, so I
But
think
in a good way.
yeah, I think he's brought up with Aegon, and there's,
Obvious, ob well, obviously there was a good relationship there. Obviously, it wasn't bad, but obviously, or obviously it wasn't bad, but at the same time, I don't think it was like middle of the road. It's just my bastard brother or whatever, because he basically becomes his right. Well, he becomes his hand, but even like during the conquest, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but he's his fiercest warrior, and he's basically his right hand man in the conquest. So obviously Aegon thinks very highly of him. You know, whoa, smoke break, smoke a bivy got up.
um, and then I had down here, do we think he had a similar upbringing to the other gray bastards? And I think
You,
probably
I mean, you'll
yes.
have to, Bessa, you'll have to weigh on that because I don't know, much about Blood Raven or Beer Steel.
I think probably yes, because they're all brought up at court,
Okay,
and he doesn't have, I don't know, he doesn't have, I have to compare him, I guess, the most to probably Damon Blackfire, because Bloodraven and Bittersteel grow up with this animosity towards each other. They're bastard sons of Bracken and Blackwood. And so they grow up with this animosity. They hate each other. They vie for the same woman. Um, and Orys Baratheon doesn't grow up with a lot of that animosity that fuels him to do a lot of the things that he does, like it does fuel Bittersteel and Bloodraven to do.
right.
So in upbringing, I think, yeah, probably the same. But as far as like shaping goes, no, I think it's probably very different.
Okay. Which at the same time too, we're talking about different times also,
Right. Yeah.
whereas Bloodraven and Bitter Steel are, further on inside the Targaryen reign of Westeros overall, whereas Orys they haven't even conquered Westeros yet. They're just a house that's there.
Yeah.
So
I wondered if he had had any marriage prospects or like pre-conquest, if there was any plans that Aegon had thought about, or if Aegon was keeping him free to marry, to kind of use as a bartering tool.
it's possible, yeah. I mean, in what we've seen from, House of the Dragon, Fire and Blood and such, yeah, that's definitely a possibility using it as like you're saying as a tactic of bartering and such. But
And I mean, he gets, I mean, Aegon uses him in an offer
yeah,
with Argilag. The marriage offer to, like, the original marriage offer to Argella. So that's what kind of made me wonder. Yeah, I just wondered if maybe he had thought about that already. Aegon's a planner, and he's planned a lot of this out already. So
right.
I kind of wondered, but they're both also young men, like at this point. So maybe they just have not, maybe Orys, yeah, just hasn't, decided to settle down yet.
Yeah. Hmm. How early on do you think Aegon, we've probably talked about this before with Fire and Blood reading, but like I said, it's been quite a while. How early on in Aegon's life do you think he decided, how do I say this, like to not just be a Lord of Dragonstone, to be more than that, you know what I'm saying? To where he eventually gets to.
Right. I think it's probably
Because again, there's the
sometime.
whole deal of like, oh, the dream and da 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 da, and you know,
I think probably sometime when he's a teenager because the quote was that he looked out to the east and saw the past, and when he looked to the west, he saw the future, and the Westeros was the future. So that's around the time they have the painted table constructed. That's like 3 or 4 years before the conquest. That's like before they even make landing.
yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like this is a long time in the making. I don't think he was like a child and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna
Well,
conquer
no,
the
but I'm
Seven
just,
Kingdoms."
yeah, I'm just thinking back to kind of like what you're talking about of him planning of using bartering tools like the marriage, prospect of, Oris to somebody at another
Right.
house or whatever. But anyway,
Um, why do you think it is that Orys never claimed a dragon?
he had previous knowledge of what was it, episode 6, the red sewing of season 2 HBO's House of the Dragon. He's like, nope, nope,
Not me.
nope, not me, not gonna happen. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting. I'm trying to think,
I mean, that
because who
may,
else?
as well as they treat their bastards, that may be something that's off
Well,
the
that's too
table
much.
for them, you know?
Too far. Yeah. He's like,
Yeah.
Dad, I want to claim a dragon. You're hilarious.
I mean, they're trying to keep this thing pure at this point. So we got to
Right.
remember that everything that's done in the red sewing is an act of desperation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. It is interesting. Maybe he just didn't have the taste for a dragon.
Right. Well, and then, let's say if he was even permitted to, would he have attempted it?
True. Yeah.
But I don't know. Or he strikes me more as your ground guy. He's like, oh, I'll lead the army. You guys fly the dragons.
Obviously, it works.
He doesn't seem like a guy that ever really like oversteps his station. And yeah, I just see him being somebody who knows their place in things.
He's a very good yes man.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a
He-
pushover,
no.
but yeah, you're right. It's like he knows his position and he's fine with it.
Yeah. During the conquest, Curtis, like we just said, he is offered by Aegon to wed Argilac Durrandon's daughter, and he's rejected. Um, So he leads the ground forces in the first battle of the conquest against houses Mooten and Darkland. If you want to hear more about that, you can check out our episode on our Fire and Blood chapter, Aegon's Conquest.
But
Um,
wait, where the hell am I going to find these episodes you speak of, Josh?
that is Survived by Productions on YouTube or Spotify. A Throne of the Dragon.
Nice. Shameless plug.
Shameless plugs. Um, oh yeah, okay. So, and this is
Moodin
the
and Darkland.
yeah. He leads the ground forces in the first battle of the conquest against Houses Moon and Darkland. As we know from that episode, that that's pretty quick. You know, they add the Mootons and the Darklands to their number pretty fast. After Aegon's crowning at the Aegon Fort, he's made the first hand of the king. And I think this is something that just kind of gets adopted eventually. Or, I don't even know. Well, no, I guess so. It's just the way they phrase it in Fire and Blood sometimes that makes you wonder, like, was that actually the way something was, or is that just somebody, how one of the maesters who wrote it down thought it was? So, because it doesn't say that Aegon named him his hand, it says that he said about Orys Baratheon that he was my shield, my stalwart, my strong right hand.
I
But
would assume,
then,
yeah, I would assume it just kind of becomes a thing later on, not just like,
right,
hey, you're going to be my hand of the king. What the hell is a hand of a king?
right. I think that eventually just turns into people call you like the hand of the king.
I've seen what you've done with your hand. I don't want to be that. But that's
Um,
to me, that's how I think it would be is you hear that quote and then it just kind of catches on as like, oh, strong right hand. Yeah, I am the hand of the king. Yeah, I like that. I like the sound of that. Write that down. Write that down.
I don't know if it's him. I feel like other people probably put that to him. Or probably like, hey, there goes the hand of the king.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying though, is like somebody says it.
Right.
Aegon says that quote. Other people hear it and they're like, oh, he's the strong right hand. The hand of the king, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the hand of
Say
the
that
king.
again. He fights against Houses Fell, Buckler, Errol, all on the road to Storm's End. And then, of course, we've got our
Oh.
big Storm's End showdown.
I'm copywriting that right now as an album title. The Road to Storm's End.
The road to Storm's End. I thought you were going to say Storm's End Showdown. It's like, oh, okay.
Band name, copyright.
Storm's End Showdown.
Yeah, and then that's our first album title. The Road
The
to
road to
Storm's End.
Storm's End. Um, yeah, and this, um, well, okay, it's not at Storm's End because that's where they go after this to find
Right.
Argella hold up. But um, it's a Bronze Gate. That's where the battle takes place. Um, man, every time I read through it, didn't matter if it was when we were doing the Fire and Blood stuff or reading through it, getting ready for this, but that battle just paints such a vivid picture in your head. Um, Orys and their troops and Rhaenys have the high ground. They're on three separate hills, and one by one, the hills fall. Even though they have the high ground, because the wind is blowing the rain towards them, and Argolac has the numbers. Like they've got almost
Right.
twice as many as Orys brings to it.
I think
Um,
once again, we've talked about this several times. It's another compliment to George R. R. Martin's storytelling,
right.
you know. And I'm sorry, I'm smiling because every time you say taking the high ground, I just hear Obi-Wan. It's over. I have the high ground.
I have the high ground, Anakin.
Yeah. I picture
Um,
Oris saying that to them. It's over. I have the high ground.
it's over,
Wow, where have I heard
Argolac.
that before?
I have the high ground. Argolac comes out and he's like, "Well, hello there."
Well, hello there. Nice.
Uh,
But yes, I think it's a good compliment to
I mean,
again
you can
his
really see it,
storytelling, man.
like when you're
Yes.
reading through this section.
Right.
The rain coming down, the charges through the dark that just fail again and again and again.
Ah, I
And
feel
then
like I
when
need
they
some Oh Sleeper playing in the background, bro.
and then when they finally break through the center and there's Meraxes in the middle, it just starts wasting people. And then he has his one-on-one with Argolac, and even, Argolac being so old, he still puts up a good fight against Orys, who's probably young enough to be his grandson easily.
Yeah. But so this picture that I see of their battle, yeah, he is a old graybeard for sure.
Oh yeah. Um, and this, like I said earlier, I pulled the quote from this period because I feel like that's a true testament to his character. Later in life, after he's been held prisoner for a long time and tortured and had his hand cut off, probably starved and deprived water, then yeah, he gets a little bitter and a little bent on revenge. So I think you earn that a little bit when you go through all of that.
I deserve it. Yeah, for sure.
And he never actively goes out of his way to go against Aegon or anything. It's just, there's moments where he's like, I think maybe we should cut off that person's hand.
He's got a nice pair of hands.
That's a nice head. I think I'll take it.
I think I'll take it. Give me your hands. What? So give me your hands. No. Yes. No. Yes.
Just makes me think of the scene in season one of the House of the Dragon where Damon's taking the gold cloaks around, they're just hacking
Ah,
off
jeez.
hands and junk and everything
Thief!
else.
Ah! Rapist! No! The
They're just
way he
all
says
that
that
guy
one, though,
from
is
season two who gets his
rapist.
hand cut off.
Oh,
Ah!
oh, yeah, I forgot.
That guy's the best.
Over the top,
Ah!
man. Give that guy a freaking Academy Award.
That's the sound I'm
That
gonna
and
make if
the
that ever happens to me. Ah! Before I'm like,
that and
oh
the
my God.
right. That and the what was the couple of extras in the background? Meat, meat, yeah, meat. Is that what we're saying? Meat, meat, meat,
Me,
meat,
me.
meat. Yeah, classics.
All the background actors are orcs.
Oh God. Looks like human flesh is back on the menu, boys. Yeah!
It looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Uh, Where were we?
Um, Uh, oh yeah, we were talking about the quote. Um, yeah, I feel like in this next moment, where they go to Storm's End and Argolak's daughter says that she's gonna still stand against them. Like they're only gonna get ashes here. Her men are like, no, we don't want to die. Like we don't want to do that.
Nobody consulted us about this.
So they deliver her to him, and when she's in her most vulnerable state, he takes care of her, you know, and he does her the honor of telling her that he'll, honor her father and the the fight that he put up and everything, that he'll take her house words and um yeah, just do that. So the Durrandon line doesn't have to be completely extinguished, you know.
Right.
There's still something there. It just lives on in House Baratheon, which is now a mix of um Targaryen and Durrandon blood.
What is I'm trying to find it. What is the house motto?
For the Durrandons?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, actually.
What?
Oh, no, I'm
What?
sorry. I'm stupid. I just said that. Because I was like, the
It's-
Baratheons took their words. It's ours is the Fury.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. That's actually one of my favorites. I think my favorite is House Tully, Family Duty Honor. But I
I'm sorry,
was,
what? Say that again.
I said, I think this is like my second favorite house words. Ours is the
Oh,
Fury. And I was saying my favorite is the Tullys. It's Family Duty Honor.
nice.
What are your favorite house words?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find them.
You a Greyjoy
How would I
man? We do not sow.
how would I go about looking that up, Josh?
Looking up what?
The houses, all their mottos.
Oh, I would just look up like Houses of Westeros house words.
Okay. Yeah, give me just a little bit and I'm gonna look them over.
I mean, a lot of them are listed on like their individual wikis, but
Well, yeah, but I
and
can't.
not everybody has house words. Like not all of them have been revealed. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and then he's given, for his contribution here. He's put in some work for Aegon. And for his contributions, he's given Storm's End all its lands, titles. Um, yeah, and he becomes Lord of Storm's End going forth here. The Baratheons are the um, Lords of Storm's End. So, um, last section we got here, Curtis, is after the conquest and Dorne. And I feel like this is where things kind of start to go south for Orys. Up until this point, he had a hard run through his part of the conquest, but the Dornish part of this just does not go well for anyone, including Orys. At least I guess he can be thankful that he wasn't one of those lords who just disappears in the desert, because there's a lot of those guys. They just vanish.
Right. Good. That would suck, bro.
Dude, I could never figure out like how they're like what they're doing. How do like 50,000 men vanish in the middle of the desert?
How do you lose 50,000 men?
Like I get it if they all starve or um just like so dehydrated or whatever, but
Eaten by sandworms.
I don't get how they all just disappear. Like the Dornish are dragging 50,000 corpses just out of the middle of the desert. What?
Let me just say, Josh, that yet again, this is a compliment to George R. R. Martin's writing style. He's leaving you wanting more and wanting answers. What happened to them? I want to know, George.
Tell me what happened to them.
Dick Gummit, George. What happened to them?
I'll be
Yeah,
taking questions
who
now.
knows?
Yeah, what happened to the host in the desert?
Ooh, I'm afraid to ask this question because it may be too much. If you got one chance to ask him one question,
And he has to
what is
answer
it?
it
He has to answer it. What is it?
because I know uh, on History of Westeros, I've heard them say before, because there'll be different places where they've been able to ask him questions like over the years.
Yeah.
Um, and they say you really have to word your questions carefully, or he either you won't get a straight answer from him, or he'll just tell you like, yeah, I don't really have, an answer for that. So you got to be careful how you word your stuff. Um, but I don't know, man. I That would be up there for me. I would want to know maybe who Orys's mom was, if she was anybody of note. Um, I want to know where Dark Sister is. I mean, we know it's
Where?
in the north based on other questions people have asked, but we don't know where I mean, it's got to be beyond the wall. I think it's probably in Bloodraven's cave,
Okay.
but yeah, I want to know where Dark Sister is. And I also don't think we know what happened to Blackfire because it gets given to Damon, and then after that, I don't remember what happens to it.
Hmm.
Damon's killed with his sons on the red grass field. So I imagine they could have
Spoiler
retrieved
alert.
it there. Bittersteel might have taken it and kept going. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to see, but some of the Valyrian steel that's been missing, I think that's some of the more interesting stuff.
Okay.
There's different houses you hear about having Valyrian steel earlier on, and then it just vanishes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Did you figure out your favorite house words?
Yes, I will save it for the end of the episode.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I'm
gonna
sure we're all going
surprise
to be
you.
just sitting on the edge of our seats.
What?
What shirt is that?
Manchester Orchestra, but it's in
Okay.
the
I
it's
thought it
like
was
an
an
Atlanta
Atlanta Braves
Braves.
shirt.
It is, but well, they're from Atlanta, so. Side note, has nothing to do with the conquest, Orys, or even Raj the Dodge.
Just Manchester Orchestra.
Hmm.
Um, what do you remember about what happens to Boris and Dorn?
I don't remember. I mean, I see here that he gets captured. Well, Will, good
That's
old Will.
psycho.
Psycho.
Um, yeah, so in 4AC, this is when they begin the first Dornish War. And he leads the assault. That's Orys's job, is he's going to lead the assault on the Bone Way with 1,000 knights. Um, that's pretty good. But you're not even dealing with any just regular men at arms, like 1,000 knights. Like that's pretty solid.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Um, but they're hindered the whole way. They're attacked by people they never see above them, throwing boulders and shooting arrows at them. And then they're finally attacked at night over the River Will, and they're cut off on both sides. Their men are butchered. And the only ones who survive are Orys and a
Yep.
couple other lords. And unfortunately for Orys, he's captured by the deranged psychopath, the Will of Will. Otherwise known as the Widow Lover, Curtis. Do you remember this guy?
No, I don't remember. I
This guy
remember the
sucks.
name,
Remember,
but I'm trying to remember.
he's the one who goes to the wedding and kills everybody, and then they castrate the groom, they rape the bride, then
Oh,
they
yeah.
sell the bride and all her handmaids like into slavery.
Okay, yeah.
This guy's a total psycho. The Wills suck in general, but like this guy's super out of it. And when people ask me, Josh, what's your beef with the Dornish? I throw guys like this in their face because fuck the Dornish. There's a bunch of psychos like this running around down there, dude. I'm over the Dornish. I'm over the Dornish hype. We're done. We're done with the Dornish.
They suck.
We'll be right back to the Throne of the Dragon podcast.
But do you know what doesn't suck about the Dornish, Josh? You
What?
know what doesn't suck about them? Their house motto: unbowed, unbent, unbroken, Josh. That's my number one.
Bullshit. We will let our small folk roast alive. We do not care. You will not catch us. We will be hiding.
Oh, oh man.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like I don't know, all this Dornish pride, and I'm like, all you guys do is run and hide. Like you're just letting innocent people get killed while all the lords hide.
Yeah.
Just so we can pop back out and be like, oh, you guys didn't get us. Like,
The whack-a-mole.
what was the point of any of it? Just to not be subjects to House Targaryen. What was so bad about being a subject to House Targaryen? What horrible thing did that do for the
What a
Hightowers?
horrible
What
life.
horrible thing did that do for the Starks? Nope, they could just pretty much helped everybody. So, and they could have had free trade with the Seven Kingdoms the whole time too.
Yeah.
But instead, we've got this super long, drawn out war that just affects trade, their local economies, bodies piled on bodies, piled on bodies. All for what? Just so they can say, oh, you guys aren't our kings. And I get the thought that, we talked about it before that the Dornish originate from the Rhoynish, the Dornish are like a mixture of the Dornish and the Rhoynar, like the Rhoynish, because the Rhoynish flee the Targaryens at the height of Valyrian rule. And they take some heavy losses to them. They do have some small victories to them, but they run ultimately. And I get why that mentality has endured, that the dragons bring slavery, because that's what Valyria was all about. So I get this continued passed down from generation to generation mentality, Valyrians and dragons bad. But I also like you can see what happened in Westeros. Like those that stood against him, yeah, they died. But the ones who accepted him as their king were given honors, and some of them raised up above the station they were in the first place. Because you can call yourself a king all day, but what are you generating other than the incomes from the taxes on the people in your little domain there, you know?
Yeah. But at the same time, who wants to be conquered though, Josh?
Can you call it conquered if I, I don't know, man. I feel like this is just like a really bad label on it for like
Then why do they
ultimately
call it the
nothing.
conquest? Why do they call him
Ultimate,
Aegon the Conqueror?
ultimately though, Curtis, for nothing to change. The only thing that changes is he keeps these people from all killing each other like they were before.
Yeah. But at the same time, who saw that coming though? Who saw that he was going to be a fair and just king over all of them, you know?
But this is 4 years after he's taken over most of Westeros. Like, they've got to see how this is working out, you know? I don't know. I feel like they have an opportunity to look at this a different way and they just absolutely will not 100%. They're just like, no, 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 no. It's like, okay, maybe we could just like talk about this a little bit. Maybe we could sit down and hash this out, but it's like, no, 100% no. Like, okay, well, all that's going to mean is that both sides are going to bleed. So, yeah, I
And
don't
we're
know. That's
fine with that.
my, yeah, that's my stance on that. You can't start me up on Dorn, Curtis.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, I started myself up.
I don't believe I did.
I started myself up. Um, so Orys is taken captive by the will of Will, and Aegon eventually agrees to ransom them back in 7 AC. So that's probably at least three. I mean, I would say, they set out to do this in 4 AC. Let's say on the short side, he's probably in captivity 2 years, long side 2.5.
Right.
That's a long time with these psychos.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so when he ransoms them back,
No.
what were you gonna say?
Go ahead.
Oh, when he's ransomed back, the Wills decide they're actually going to cut off the sword hands of all the captive lords so that they can never raise arms against Dorne again. And this is not a part of the agreement. This is like a last minute decision to do this. So check another box in the dick column for the Dornish there. But
The
actually, you know
Dornish
what?
rule.
Cut their hands off. Cut their hands off for me real quick. Um, and then yeah, Orys is called Orys One Hand after this. Daenerys Martell visits Aegon under a peace banner and suggests that oh so okay, start over.
Buddha, redo.
Daria Martell, she's the Prince of Dorne's daughter,
Mhm.
visits Aegon under a peace banner, and they want to put all this to bed. Like both sides are just bleeding. They want to end this. And Orys Baratheon suggests that they cut one of her hands off and send her back to her father that way.
I see him pointing with his nub. Get her! Cut
Yeah.
her hand off!
Cut her hand off.
He's like poking Aegon. He's like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Do it.
Stop poking me with your nub, bro. Do it.
Um and then in the second Dornish War, he finally gets his revenge during the vulture hunt. He comes down with his forces on Walter Will at Stonehelm and gets a little out of control here. First, he decides, yep, that's what I was picturing. Um, at first he decides he's gonna get a little revenge here. We're gonna balance the scales. He's gonna cut one of Walter Will's hands off for the hand that he lost. And then he decides he's gonna cut the other hand off, and then a leg and another leg. So, I guess revenge complete? It's pretty good.
I guess.
You got three extra limbs. Um, but during the vulture hunt, he does sustain some wounds and he dies from those on his way back to Storm's End. Um, there's a lot of big blocks of time there where he's just not at the forefront of the story. He's not a main character, I feel like. He's more prevalent during Aegon's time. And after Aegon, then yeah, he lends his sword and his banners to Aenys in the vulture hunt. And I think a lot of that too is probably revenge driven. But yeah, there's these
Yes.
big gaps of time, man, where we got to imagine he's just fathering
Bitter.
children,
Oh,
um, shoring up things at Storm's End because we have to get from him to Rogar
right.
in a relatively short amount of time here because Aegon dies before Orys and Aenys already has all his kids before Orys dies. So Jaehaerys is already alive at that point, and Rogar has to be too because Rogar is quite a bit older than Jaehaerys. So I think there's only one Baratheon separating um Orys and Rogar.
Yeah, I believe so. But that's what I saw.
Yeah, but
Whoa.
he's
My bad.
unnamed. Like we don't know who Orys's son is, who his son is,
Correct.
Rogar.
Yeah, because it only names Davos and Raymond. Raymond. That's weird though. I wonder why. Although there is a note here that says it's uncertain, but Rogar's dad might be Davos. Hmm. I don't know. It's interesting though.
Don't know.
Don't
Well, that pretty much
know.
brings us to the end of it, Curtis. Do you have any other
Dodge,
thoughts on
dodge.
Orys Baratheon?
I do not. I do not. I
Or
like
House
Raj the
Martell's
Dodge
words,
better.
your favorite words?
Yeah. Oh man, I shouldn't have closed that out. Because I was looking at some of the other ones. Um,
Do you have any honorable mentions?
yeah, there was one I did like Mormonts. That was kind of cool. I mean it's pretty simple. Here we stand.
Yeah.
Um, Karstark is kind of interesting, the son of winter.
Yep.
Um, I hate to even mention this one just because of their role in Game of Thrones, but House Bolton, our blades are sharp. Oh,
Yeah.
I like it, but I don't like it. What was the other one? The Malister, they sound very uppity, above the rest. We're better than all y'all. All y'all suck.
We're above the rest.
Um,
I like the Aaron's high as honor.
yeah, where'd they go? As high as honor. Yeah, as high as honor. Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, yeah, I think that was it.
I like the ones that so they they bring a little fear, like the Greyjoys. We do not sow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Honed and ready. Yeah.
Welp. All right.
Who
Um,
who do you got next, Josh?
I have a couple that I have down. I'm not sure exactly. I keep leaning back to this one, and it's just because there's a lot of stuff that he's involved with that is just kind of a cool time in what we have so far. Um, so next episode is probably gonna be Edmure Tully.
Ooh.
Um, he's Catelyn's younger brother. He leads Riverrun's forces against the Mountain.
It's not a Muppet name. What the hell?
No, no, he's not an Oscar or an Elmo. He's an Edmure.
Yeah, well, what the heck? Huh.
He's involved with Rob and the War of the Five Kings. Well, yeah, obviously he's part of the War of Five Kings. The Kingdom of the Northern Rivers. He's taken captive. And he's one of our characters who's still alive, from that whole group. So, yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one. So I think we'll probably go with
Cool.
that one
Cool.
for the next. All right, Curtis, you want to take us on out of here?
I knew that was coming, and I'm not prepared. Why
Oh,
didn't you tell me beforehand?
I'm never prepared.
And I can't get to it. I cannot get to it. Wait. Now I can. Now I can. Yeah. All right. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @SurvivorPro for the news and latest episode postings. Not just on the show, but our other shows as well. We have the History of the Course podcast and its son, the History of the Course After Hours podcast, where we take a band from the core genre, we break them down, history, member changes, discography, so on and so forth. We also have the Red Right Hand podcast, which has covered all 6 seasons of the Peaky Blinders, and there will be a movie. And we'll be there to cover it.
We'll be there
Yeah.
in Birmingham.
In Birmingham.
Arthur! Tommy!
Also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host at Joshua and Gary. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. And if you want to listen to us and see our smiling faces or our goofy expressions or whatever else there is, head on over to our YouTube page. Just search Is Survived by Productions, and that'll have every episode from all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel and thumbs up the video. Alrighty. Till the next episode, we'll see you.